Hello, and welcome to West Franklin Talks. My name is Dave Cruz, and I am joined by the one and only Matt Pearson.
Good morning, Dave.
Hey, Matt, that's a nice hat you're wearing.
I'm not wearing a hat.
It's all good. It's all good.
I wished I was.
I wish you were too.
Yeah.
Your hair's sticking up.
Yeah, I know.
It's not
I'm
really.
getting a cut today.
Hey, there you go.
Trim.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I was really hoping I'd get you to do a spit take or something with that. So anyway, man, it is, as this goes live, it's a Tuesday morning. As we record, it's a Monday morning.
Yeah, boy, what a Monday morning
It feels like a Monday morning. I am dragging.
I've never been drunk before, but I can imagine it feels kind of like this.
Really?
Yeah.
You must really be feeling it then.
I'm just tired.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's a good tired.
Spent most of the afternoon on Sunday afternoon on my feet outside playing with Noah, and my heels are bruised, and so it hurts to walk today.
That's a lot of time on your feet if your heels to be bruised.
We walked, and like when I say walked, he was on a scooter and I was chasing him, and so it was from one end of a field to the other because it was a walking track around this field, and so it was.
Noah was back at West Franklin yesterday.
He was.
Hadn't seen him in a hot minute.
Yeah.
And man, has he grown.
He's a big boy.
Yes, he is full of energy.
You have no idea how excited he was to be here. I mean, it was crazy how much, and he cried all the way home because he had to leave.
Wow.
And so he's talked to us all night about go back to West Franklin. Huh. He's already ready for another family gathering. He wants to have dinner here.
Supporting the Mississippi State hat.
Yeah, always. That's his new one right now.
Yeah.
So it was good to have Noah back. It was good to have Melissa back. Yeah. It was good all the way around on Sunday. Promotion Sunday, chaotic in some good ways, trying to get folks in right rooms, trying to get folks registered who had missed the deadline. Yeah. As best I can tell, services were solid. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute, I'm sure.
We will.
And but yeah, so now we're looking ahead because Sunday's coming.
Yeah, there's a couple of big things coming up. This Sunday, Brad is overseeing and leading, directing, conducting,
hosting
a lunch for all things music and worship, whether it's for tech or band or vocals, I should say.
Yes.
He's hosting a lunch after the second service in the fellowship hall.
Student room.
Going to be talking about what's to come in the fall. And as he mentioned yesterday in the service, Dickens of Christmas coming at, of course, Christmas time.
Yes.
And so just a heads up to any of you that might be interested in serving with tech and or band and or vocals, be a good time for you to check things out.
Yeah. So that's going to be good. And then the next week, it is our New Here lunch.
Yeah.
And so it is a low-key, low-commitment kind of lunch. If you're checking out the church at West Franklin, if you've been here for a few months and you haven't made the membership step and you're just kind of like, hey, I'd like to get to know you guys a little better, this is the time to do it. The staff will be there. Spouses will be there, hopefully. Free lunch down in the student room after the second service. We're just going to hang out. We're going to talk. We're going to share a little bit about who we are. Talk a little bit about, just kind of what drives us and what motivates us and maybe even talk, I don't know, sports.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'm down.
I mean, I know you are, but
August the 22nd. I know we said that,
yes.
but I want to highlight that. This Sunday, the 15th, is the choir.
Yep.
The following Sunday is New Year lunch.
Yes. Yeah. So it's good. It's good. So, week 2 of God Is.
Yeah.
This past Sunday, Matt.
Yeah.
God is love.
God is love, and I'm glad I preached on that.
Yeah.
Because before we get to the sermon, there's a couple things I want to make sure our members hear from me.
Sure.
Number one, when any of you get up and go somewhere during the service, everyone in the sanctuary watches you.
Amen.
Our sanctuary is small enough to where, unless you're sitting on the back row and you sneak out, if you're sitting just about anywhere else, a huge chunk of the people know when you leave.
Yes.
Especially if you sit up front and you get up. It is incredibly distracting. And I just want to, sometimes you got to get up and go. I get it. I have a small bladder. You have to get up and go. You have to use the restroom, that kind of thing.
Your kids are being
And I'm guessing the people that are listening to this probably don't need to hear this because you know it, but I just want to reiterate because there's just several movements that happened in the second service yesterday And that's why this is coming up. I just want you to be aware. Just put this on your radar that when you get up and move somewhere, whether it's out and then come back in, or you go speak to someone and sit back, everyone notices. Everyone.
Yes.
And all eyes follow you. You may not think they do. So if you have children, beg you to take them to the bathroom at 10:29. I know they may need to go again at 10:50, and that's fine. I get it. I'm not going to, unless there's just something horrible happening, I'm not going to say anything from the platform. But it does. I was just reminded yesterday that every eye, including mine, follows what's going on.
Yeah. It's
and then when staff members have to get up and deal with something that's happening, I'm wondering if somebody's fixing to run back in with a gun. I probably shouldn't harp on this, but just a good reminder to all of us.
Yes.
When you come to the worship service, stay focused. And even if you're not focused in your seat, when you get up, it causes someone else not to stay focused.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to add to that.
Yeah.
If you can hear yourself talking, everybody else can too. I say that in love, but we've had several moments.
Just think.
Yeah.
Just think, please. And I think a lot of these things happen because we just assume everything's okay and it's not distracting and nobody can hear us.
We just get comfortable.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it.
I think that's part of the challenge. And so we want you to be comfortable in worship, obviously, but we don't want you to be so comfortable that you're treating it like your living room.
Right.
Because it's not.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that. And
if you have no clue what we're talking about, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Just log it away as saying, man, I need to pay attention to my movement during service.
Yes.
And one other thing I want to say, Dave. There are people coming to our church, and I hope continue who come to our church, who will not look and or dress like us.
Amen.
If you grew up in church and you had parents take you to church, you were told, do wear this, don't wear that. And that's fine. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. But there are people coming that do not know, quote unquote, church etiquette. And I'm not saying that. I'm not making a moral judgment here.
Nope.
I'm just saying they don't know it. It is not your place, unless you have a long time relationship with them, to talk to them about how they dress when they come to a worship service. Now, if somebody's wearing something very inappropriate, that's another thing. But if they don't wear something according to your quote unquote standard of holiness, please keep it to yourself.
Yeah. If we're more concerned about the hat on their head than their heart, we got a problem.
Yeah.
And so, and I say that in general, we need to be more concerned about how's this person, what are they doing, how are they doing, than you don't look the way I think you should look, or you're not acting the way I think you should act.
Yeah.
And if you have a problem with someone and you're like, I need to go tell them, I want you to come find me, Dave Cruz, first, before you go do that.
Yeah, please do.
So I can lovingly tell you to sit down and be quiet. Lovingly.
Well, and here's another thing for us church people to consider, Dave. If your thinking is how a person dresses is indicative of their spirituality, then you and I have a wrong understanding of spirituality.
Yeah. And for all we know, they came from another church that just has a more casual atmosphere than us.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. You know what that sound was?
What?
That's me throwing the soapbox away. Let's get to the sermon,
okay,
shall we? All right.
Well, I thought it was a good day to hit that.
It was.
That stuff.
It was.
And again, if you have no idea what we're talking about, that's wonderful. Log it away. Okay. God is love.
Love.
Yes.
Just a small little topic.
Just a tiny topic. I chose to stay in Ephesians 2.
You did.
Instead of go all over the place. And of course, I still don't know what I said in the second service yesterday because of the distractions.
I got up, I caught the first bit of it and then got up. I was one of those staff members you were talking about. So, so I listened to first service.
Okay. Is that what was put online?
Yes, that's one that's online. So I was while I was running back and forth on a field, I had my phone held up to my ear, listening to the sermon.
Yeah.
So let's start with our every Tuesday morning question. What's the one thing you hope people walked away with?
God's love is not determined by our actions. That was a biggie.
Yeah.
And with that, God joins us in our mess.
Okay.
God meets us in our rebellion and loves us in it. Those are the biggies. And I guess to add to that, and you asked for one thing, I know, because that's what we hit. I'm guessing 90% of the people there yesterday are churched people.
Yeah, I would say so.
And so I really wanted to hammer the wrong assumption that we often think that once we trust Christ, God changes towards us. We wouldn't say it that way because we're too theologically correct, quote unquote. But we live in such a way that, okay, I made a decision. I got to step up my game.
Yeah.
And that God is now disappointed with us because we should know better. And he loves us differently.
Right.
And that's just not biblical.
No, he was disappointed in us from day one. So no, I'm playing bad theology. God's the same yesterday and day forever. He loves us.
Yeah, Wes Franklin, if that caused you to have a little heartburn, then you're in a great space theologically.
Yes, as I said, it's a Monday. Yeah. So and I think that's interesting that there's the other side to that too, though. So many of us act like, well, I'm saved. I don't have to do anything else now. I'm done.
Correct.
So there's those two spectrums, and we have to find the healthy, how do we live a life that's pleasing to God, that's in obedience of God, but not out of fear and not out of
pressure,
legalism pressure, but out of because I love God so much, I'm responding to him this way.
Yeah. It's obedience is critical. I mean, you obedience is a fruit, and I would say obedience is an overflow of our relationship with the Lord. It's when you and I swim around in God's love for us and we become more aware of it, there's this renewed drive that says, if he loves me that way, if he says this and leads me to this and calls me to this, it's out of love.
Yeah. So
why wouldn't I do that?
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, it comes down to how do we view God? That A.W. Tozer thought or quote that you put up again. Yeah. What we think about God, the first thing we think about God is the most important thing, because that's going to influence how we respond to God. And so if we are going back to week 1, and you mentioned again week 2, if we have a wrong view of who God is, then we have a wrong response to God, because it's not based on what we can understand about God. Again, we can't understand everything about God. He's infinite, but he allows us to understand a good bit of him. And so we have to work hard to get a right understanding. And so you made this comment that I thought, wow, that was profound, and I don't think most people would catch it. And so it was get your theology from the Bible, not society. And you said it vice versa. Don't get your theology from society, get it from the Bible. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, that made me stop and think, well, wait a minute. How are we even getting theology from society when society doesn't even seem to be focused on God? But I think it's huge. Where are you getting your understanding of God? Yeah. And so that made me stop and think, okay, well, what am I putting into my head and my heart? How is that getting there? How is it influencing my thoughts towards God? Yeah. And so
if there's one thing COVID has taught church leaders, it about our members, it is that our members are being, and I'm sure we're included in this, are being discipled more by news, social media, others' opinions, than we are what the Bible says about God and life. I mean, I've even listened to preachers recently, well-respected preachers that put fear in people.
I was about to bring that up.
And my goodness, I want to just pull out that soapbox again and name names, but this isn't the place or time for it. But it's a time to. I want our members to, whether they're at West Franklin or wherever church they go in their lives, to say, you know what I long for, what I need on Sunday morning for that hour is God.
Yes.
And help me understand more of who God is.
Yeah. And I think we have to be careful, because if we aren't discerning in both what we say from stage or even here right now, but even as a follower of Jesus, if we aren't careful about what I'm allowing to influence my relationship with God, it becomes real easy to be like, oh, well, this is all just about good times and fresh fuzzy feelings, or the exact opposite. It's all about judgment and fear. we should have a healthy fear of God. But if that's all you have, then it's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And if all you have is God is this lovey-dovey, cuddly bunny God.
Cuddly bunny.
I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just the kind of God that you're like, oh, I can snuggle up with him and just he's my best friend. Yeah. He should, but if that's all it is, then you have a unhealthy understanding of God also.
Right.
And we I'll be honest, it's kind of like a seesaw. Some days, moments, seasons, God is more the judger in our minds, and other moments he's the cuddly bunny. But I'm sorry, I don't have a better analogy at this moment. It's just the visual that came to my head.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
I appreciate you sharing what comes to your head.
No, I filter most of it out.
I
So
think I know, and I think our listeners will know what you mean.
yeah.
One of my children on Saturday experienced 3 different very heavy things, and it reminded my wife and I of just the reality of life, heaviness of life. My kids are 8th, 9th, and 11th grade. One of my children on Saturday experienced one with his friends finding a vape in the high school football restroom.
Mm-hmm.
A little while later, he was at a friend's house. One of his friends, he thought Dad picked him up. He says, "That's your dad?" "No, it's my godfather. My mom died of cancer 2 years ago. My dad was killed in a car wreck last year. I stay with my godfather."
Good golly.
And then one of his friends' older brothers, who's in high school, doesn't know if he's bi, gay, or trans, and had his bi/gay/lesbian/trans person over to the house where it was. And I'm just saying facts here.
Mm-hmm.
And it just reminded us of the desperate need for our children to have a robust understanding of God.
Yeah.
And if I'm understanding where you're saying that seesaw, that back and forth, by robust, I mean whole counsel of God type thing. We're never going to completely understand God.
Right.
I mean, we have all eternity to know him. But there's this I even shared with some student leaders last night, I long for our next gen ministry, our church, to say, we want God. Show us who God is. We want to worship God. Not that we don't help deal with some of these other issues, but we don't want those to be first and foremost. We want God to be first. And that may sound trite and simple, but I fear sometimes that God becomes something we say and talk a little bit about, but it's not front and center.
Okay, so we understand that society is competing for our time and attention. How do we make sure, practical steps, that God is getting the time, the focus, that we are making the effort to truly know him, not who society says he is?
It's practical steps.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just going to put the cookies on the bottom shelf. Daily Bible reading is critical, whether it's a chapter, whether it's half a chapter, whether it's 3 verses. Get in the habit of spending time in the Word. If you have a hard time understanding the Bible and you want some good daily devotionals, email me or Dave, and we can shoot you those. Weekly corporate worship.
Yes.
I cannot stress that enough. I've seen a lot of our people begin to put their child in student ministry. They'll go to worship and then leave, and they'll worship together. Or some of our people will be serving and then leave. And I don't want to be legalistic on this,
Right.
but it's vitally important that you be in corporate worship. What you listened to yesterday afternoon with Noah is fine, but it's not the same as being present.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not judging you there. I'm just saying I think a lot of our people.
Yeah.
I mean, you attempted to be in corporate worship with your wife, but
I tried.
Ministry happened. So that was just, I say that to say I think a lot of our people think that's church.
Yeah.
And it's not.
It's not.
Being in a life group. I mean,
Yes.
I know some of you are rolling your eyes probably because you're like, yeah, but it's critical to be in a life group for a host of reasons. But one, to help you keep yourself plugged in, to who God is.
Yeah, and even if it's not a West Franklin life group,
Yeah.
make sure it's at least a gathering of believers. And when I say believers, I mean people who really get what Jesus is about and
not
who
just
he is.
not just a dadgum prayer and share time.
Or a social club.
Right. I mean, if you want to be in a social club, be in a social club. Just don't consider that your time where you're being challenged and encouraged to walk with God.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm looking forward to in our goals start in October actually. Brentwood has told all of their ministers and all of their staff actually, you're going to be in Paul and Timothy relationships. You're going to go be a Paul to somebody, and you're going to be a Timothy to somebody. So I'm looking forward to that, especially as I look for my person to meet with who pours into me. But I'm looking forward to finding someone who I can be like, hey, can I pour into you?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be that's good. A group definitely, but if you have even a smaller group of one or two men or women who are there, iron sharpening iron, pouring into you, calling you out in love, that's important. I want to go back to the worship thing. We get it. Sometimes you can't make worship. We're not like myself. We're not judging you. But if it's consistently, well, I can't be there because I've got this. Well, wait a minute. Come on now.
We all make time for what's important to us.
Yeah, we do. And I mean, if anybody on Sunday morning has an excuse not to be in worship, I would say it's me.
Sure.
There's a billion
I would agree
things.
with that.
And I am constantly going, how am I going to get to worship today? Because it is so important. And so come join me in that effort. If you're one of those folks who have an excuse, come sit next to me. Let me lovingly hold your hand, keep you accountable, whatever it might be, to being a part of what we're doing on Sunday. Because I was reminded yesterday, just sitting in the music and the little bit of the sermon I got, this is just the right place to be on Sunday mornings. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. All right, Matt, what else?
Let me just close this with this. I mean, the love of God. We could.
I mean, it's crazy that we're trying to cover this huge topic in 20
this coming
minutes.
Sunday is God is trustworthy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's a small topic too, but
Yeah. I mean, they're all kind of small.
I closed each service yesterday by saying I hurt for you, meaning West Franklin people, to truly believe that God's default position towards you is love, mercy, and grace. Ephesians 2:4, but God being rich in mercy. That's his being. It's who he is. You've heard me recommend this book 1,000 times. I didn't mention it yesterday, but it needs to be Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland.
Yeah.
He will help you understand the heart of God and God's disposition towards you according to the scriptures. Second thing is, and I didn't talk about this at all, but the more you and I see God in this way, the more it will transform the way we love each other.
Yeah.
Christians are not known for, I'll love you in the mess. And unfortunately, we're known just like the world. The world says, you do this to me, you're out.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way of God.
Yeah.
And not the way of his people. Again, I've gotten several emails, several cards turned in. Please, if you're experiencing God's love or have experienced God's love, or if you've seen an example of God's love, share it with us. Send us an email, info@westfranklinchurch.com, or find us online or what our email addresses are. Send it to us, send us stories so we can encourage each other and perhaps share them with others so they can be encouraged too.
That's good. That's good. All right, Matt. We've come to the end of another episode of West Franklin Talks. We want to say thanks for joining us. We'll be back on Friday. I don't know what we're talking about yet. Do you, Matt? You're giving me the nope.
I've got an idea.
Oh, I like ideas. Can't wait to hear it. So, hey, we'll be back Friday with an idea of what we're going to talk about. In the meantime, you be good, you be safe, and may the Lord bless you and keep you.